MJ Movie Reviews back up again with a wave of crime movie reviews for this lovely summer we got coming up. Well, I believe the summer before I had done a series of hard-hitting crime movie reviews so this time I decided to start my series over again because there was a couple films that I wanted to do last time and I want to do it this year. So I'm going to start out with kind of a film that I think is underrated. A film called Pride and Glory, starring Mr. the Great Edward Norton himself and Colin Farrell. Directed by Gavin O'Connor of The Accountant. Warrior, movie I love, and actually I think Miracle. Kurt Russell. I never saw that film. Well, Pride and Glory. I actually saw that film at the theater when I was in college. I believe this movie was released in 2008, if I remember right. This was 2008, I think. But I think the film was filmed in 2006. But it didn't come out, I believe, it was either 2009 or 2008 when the film came out. But either way, it came and went and left the theaters very quickly. But it basically tells the story of Edward Norton is a cop. He's kind of been relegated to, he was a homicide detective, and now he's been relegated to other duties within the force because of, an on-the-job incident that happened with him, an accident. Colin Farrell is his brother-in-law, who is a uniformed cop, and they come upon one night a brutal murder of some of their brethren, some police officers, and through some investigating that Edward Norton does when he decides to help out his brothers, because we all know when officers go down, like they get killed, the whole force jumps on it. And through Edward Norton doing a little poking around at the insistence of his father, the great John Voight, Edward Norton finds out that apparently these officers being murdered was the handiwork of their fellow brothers, some cops. So therefore, the backstabbing and the police corruption and violence and cursing and all sorts of gore ensue. I really liked this film when I first saw it at the theater back then. Digressing a little bit, I watched the special features on the DVD, and oh my God, this poor man, Gavin O'Connor, what he went through to make this film made. I'm actually very disappointed that this film didn't do more business when it came out. Because, this man went through it. And when you see the process of how much it went through to get this thing made, oh my God. But I'm going to touch on that in a minute. I just had to digress and throw that in there. But on to the film itself. I have not watched this film. I actually was at Buybacks, which is like a trade-in DVD, Blu-ray type of place in Ohio. And I saw this. This was like $3.99. So I was like, man, let me pick this up. I've been wanting to watch it, the two-disc edition. And I hadn't seen the film since I had saw it at the theater back in 08, 09. And kind of upon rewatching it again, I kind of changed my feelings about it because I remember a lot of reviews at the time were a little bit harder on the film. They were kind of just saying it's like every other series. Because you got to remember, this is the time, Street Kings and Training Day and Gone Baby Gone. And just like all these gritty cop movies were just like it was a resurgence of them where they just kept coming out, And upon rewatching it, I don't enjoy the film as much as I did back when I first saw it. But I still think that it's a competently done addition to the corrupt cop genre. Kind of issues I have with the movie is the pacing. The pacing is maybe a tad bit off, but seeing what Gavin O'Connor went through when he made it, I can understand why this movie because it does what the character moments kind of go on, I'd maybe say a little bit too long. And that's all the characters involved. Like, literally, like, there's side characters that there's scenes that kind of go on a little bit too long. But that's okay. There was a lot of care and intimacy put into those scenes. And I think, ultimately, that's what kind of makes Pride and Glory come together. Because when you get into what the main scheme of what's going on, it's just like every other cop genre movie that we've seen a million times before. But ultimately, it's the actors that bring it together. Particularly, what's the gentleman's name? Noah. He's been in all the Gavin O'Connor's movies. Noah Emmerich. He's a really good character actor. I really like his interactions with his wife here, who he's Edward Norton's brother, and his wife has cancer. So, and Colin Farrell works up under him. I don't know if that's ethical or not because that's his brother-in-law. He works. I mean, who knows how that works? Colin Farrell's wife is Edward Norton and Noah Emmerich's sister and Jon Voight's daughter. Gets a little bit confusing in there, but I was able to keep track of it. But there's some things that Noah Emmerich does in the story when Edward Norton questions him, and you kind of go like, well, why would he do that? But then when you kind of see what my man is going through in his private life, he's juggling a lot. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's got a wife that's dying, and he's got his men who are up to some unsavory things, and you got to think this whole ship is going down. It's going to be on his shoulders. He runs the show. So it makes sense there. There's some things Edward Norton's character does which make more sense when you find out a little bit too far later on into the movie about kind of why he has that scar on his face. Now, I will say most of the characters have a complete arc. The one character who, in my opinion, from watching the film again, who I don't feel has a complete arc is Colin Farrell's character. Let me just say, Jon Voight is great. Noah Emmerich is great. Edward Norton is always great. I'm going to talk about Edward Norton a little bit later when I talk about the documentary. As we guys, these crowd movie reviews are going to be a little bit long, so this is more like a discussion/review. So if you can bear with me, hold on if I go on too long. But I just like to talk about this stuff. So either way, Edward Norton's great. Colin Farrell, people kind of bash Colin Farrell. I personally, from my taste as a viewer, I've always been a Colin Farrell fan. I first saw him in Minority Report way back. Oh my God, back in 2002. My God, I was 20 years old when I first saw that. Oh my God, and I love Minority Report. I might even actually throw that in because that's kind of a sci-fi crime movie. But that was when I first saw Colin Farrell. I didn't think much of him in Minority Report. Not like he was bad, but I was just kind of like, okay, all right. He was good in the movie, whatever. But Colin Farrell's good here. Kind of the issue I've always taken with Colin Farrell is when he does his American accent, he has this kind of odd way of speaking. I don't know, and he kind of does a little bit of the Eric Freeman Silent Night, Deadly Night thing with the eyebrows. Colin Farrell has very thick eyebrows, so he does this weird thing with his eyebrows a lot. He did a lot of it in Miami Vice, and he tends to do that in his performance when he plays these gritty, tough guys. He does like a lot of frowning with his eyebrows, and he kind of does this little thing where he talks like this. We're gonna pray. Everybody go get the gas can. We're gonna pray that he has to do this. And then he'll switch back and he'll do his Miami Sonny Crockett Vice grumbling where he kind of goes, and look. It works for this movie, and I do think that Colin Farrell is good in the film, but it's just that his character, I'm not going to give it away for everybody who hasn't seen the film, but his character does some things that are, for those of you who have seen the film, we remember the scene with the iron. I'm not going to give it away for those of you who may not see, but the ironing scene, those know what I'm talking about. It's so despicable that it's like by the time it comes to the third act and his character is supposed to have like, I guess, a last minute kind of redemption, it doesn't really work for me because, I mean, basically this guy is a psychopath. Well, maybe not, like he's a full-blown sociopath. When you see what he's doing, to what he did with that iron, and he's brutalizing people who don't have anything to do with brutalizing drug dealers. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's bad when you cross the law and you brutalize anybody, without having to defend your own life. As a law enforcement officer, that's bad. But what he does is so far into like sociopath, psychopath type of mentality that I don't buy his art. But regardless, Colin Farrell is good. I wish I could find more interviews with him talking about the film, but he's good in it. But I just think his arc is just not there because I just think his character is presented too much like a cold sociopath. Particularly a line that he says to one of the drug dealer guys, where he goes, "If you breathe a word of this, I'm gonna come back here, slit your throat, f your wife, and kill your kid." Now, if that character is supposed to have some sort of redemptive arc in the third act, I don't think I can buy it if you say something like that to somebody. That's just my feeling about it. But I think his character is really the character in the movie that I kind of have a problem with. I love Colin Farrell, and I think he sells it, but I just wish there would have been a little bit more I would have got to know about his character, because he's the one character that I don't feel you fully get to know as much as you get to know all of the other characters in the movie. Even some of Nora Emmerich's guys. Old boy from Carlito's Way, who was Al Pacino's cousin, who got his throat slit in the bar. I can't remember that actor's name, but he was in Miami Vice movie too. But even he kind of has like an arc, So, but overall, the film has some slow spots. I think maybe it's a little bit too long, but I still think that the actors really make the material come to life, and really the confrontational scenes, the emotional character scenes, I think in this movie are very strong work. One last note I want to talk about the movie, and then I'll move on to the behind the scenes stuff, is I love there's a scene where Colin Farrell has a confrontation with this drug dealer dude. And I love that scene because the actor that they chose to play the drug dealer, he's not a typical dude who's like buff and swole and he just come up in the house strong arming people and physically. He's just a very kind of tiny guy, and he's very unassuming. Hey, how you doing today? And him and Colin Farrell have a really good confrontation. I love that. There's many good scenes like that in this movie, but I really love, I forget the actor's name. He's been in a bunch of movies. But I love his introduction in that scene when he goes, "Hi, can I come speak to Jimmy?" And it's matter of fact, when I very first saw the film, I didn't even catch that he was a bad guy or a drug dealer. Like, it's presented like he's just like, "Hey, how you doing?" And even the actress says it on the day they filmed the scene. But I love that scene. I really love that scene. But all in all, aside from, kind of a ridiculous hand-to-hand combat scene between Edward Norton and Colin Farrell in a bar in the third act, I think this is a solid addition to the cop drama genre movies. Now, going on a little bit longer, as far as Gavin O'Connor having a really hard time making this film, this man suffered. He missed his grandmother's funeral. I mean, he went through it. There was at one point they filmed, I think on the documentary, they went way overtime. They filmed for like 20 hours or something nuts. It was insane. They went through hell to make this movie. Colin Farrell is not featured in the documentary, so maybe he was just like so in character, or maybe he was just like too pissed during the production where he said, "I'm not even going to participate." But digressing about the controversy of Edward Norton and Marvel and him not coming back for the Avengers and the Hulk, I guess at first I didn't want to accept that because I'm such a fan of Edward Norton, but from watching the documentary, I think I might lean towards more that maybe he might be a little bit on the difficult side to work with, because there's times where they're showing that Edward Norton did have approval to kind of write some scenes around with his character and stuff. But there's like moments they show behind the scenes where like my man just decided that he was just going to show up to the set and just like not tell the director, but just like make up his own dialogue like as they're shooting. Like and John Voight comes off camera and goes like what is this guy doing? This is not what's written here. He's telling what? So it's like, and it's repeatedly going on throughout the production. Now, I can tell you guys firsthand, and doing grip work on short films and acting in short films. Look, this stuff takes so much time to do that when you're dealing with somebody who's a problem, it could be absolute living hell. You will not get anything done because movie making has to be done. Time is money, and let me tell you, I'm telling you, 15 minutes, a half an hour goes by so quickly on a movie set after you do the setup that you have to be ready. And oh man, God bless Gavin O'Connor, man, because I can't even imagine. So I'm liable to believe that some of the stories about Mr. Norton are about being difficult to work with are probably true. You guys should watch that documentary. But yeah. It was a tough film. It's a shame it didn't do better because I think there's some really good work here. But you guys, check out that documentary on the making of Pride and Glory. So that's my review of Pride and Glory for the cop genre movie reviews. Thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and don't forget to ding-a-ling-ling-ling-ling-ling-ling, hit that bell down below. And RMJ Movie Reviews. I will be back with another on-the-fly crime movie review coming soon.